Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. This time out we have some new books finally getting, I suppose, officially revealed. We basically knew they already existed, but they hadn't yet been properly announced. So that seems like a positive, and overall it is, but I do think the release dates on these books opens up a bit of a discussion about what's happening this year. Why these release dates, and we'll get into that as we go through. So I suppose it's technically 3 separate products, but really it's only 2, because of course, as you can see here, it's the Legend of Korra Art of the Animated Series Book 2 Spirits hardcover 2nd edition, and along with that is the deluxe edition of this re-release. So both of these here, and I'll get to the other thing in a second. So they're still going with the sort of placeholder here. This is just the original Book 2 Spirits cover for the art book. It is going to change, of course. I don't think it says so here. It doesn't say here that it's getting a new cover, but the Book 1 art book says 2nd edition on it. This doesn't say 2nd edition, so my guess is it will get a new cover more than likely. And then the only other new thing that they mention here is, of course, that it's going to have new sketches from the original creative team. Okay, so that's good. And then also a new foreword by Korra voice actor PJ Byrne, who obviously voices Bolin. Now, if you go back to the Book 1 Air hardcover 2nd edition, it's going to have a new foreword by Janet Varney. So Bolin gets the Book 2 one, and I'm guessing that more than likely means they'll do Mako's voice actor David Faustino for Book 3 or 4, and then the other one will go to Seychelles Gabrielle as Asami. They'd be my guesses that they do the 4 main team members, but we'll see how exactly they go with that. So yeah, not a lot of extra information here, in that, as you can see, the deluxe edition doesn't even have extra information particularly, outside of just saying that it's the more expensive one. But I'm guessing it's just going to be the standard stuff that they say in all the deluxe editions, where, you know, same book basically, but it's going to have the slipcase, the lithograph, and the special front cover, and that's pretty much what it's going to be. So yeah, I think the Book 2 Spirits art book has a lot of potential with a new cover, just because visually there's so much going on, because you've got Spirit, you've got Rava, Vatu, Unalaq is interesting, Korra with some Avatar stage stuff. There's so many options that you can go for, so I'm excited to see what the new cover looks like, and it means that I suppose the lithograph is going to be this cover here. The original cover for the book, and we'll see if they do anything different, because they're just saying sketches and they seem pretty boring. There's not going to be, I suppose, any new interesting content, let's just say. So yeah, the thing here though is both of these books, September 22nd 2021. Why so far into the future? Why is this so long after the Book 1 art book? So the Book 1 art book's coming out March 10th. So this is coming out September. That's 6 months between releases. Whereas it was 4 months between the Avatar art book 2nd edition and this one. And we'll get into this with the next item as well. Why so much extra time? Like, especially when it's going to be like a 6-book set. Why are you suddenly extending out how long it is between books? I don't really get that, because it's just creating a bigger gap during the year, where we have a book Suki is in June or July, and then we're gonna have to wait all those extra months until this comes out in September. That's quite a long wait. But the other thing is this: finally, Avatar: The Last Airbender Smoke and Shadow Omnibus trade paperback. So yeah, we have the new cover to go along with it, which is really, really cool. Yeah, the cover is here slightly bigger, so let's just zoom out a bit. So yeah, really cool new cover. Azula as the focus makes sense. Maybe a little bit spoilery perhaps, but ultimately, yes, the core of the comic ultimately revolves around Azula doing what she does, so I appreciate that. Suki being here is great, Mei being here in the background is nice, and Zuko and Aang. So I was expecting May to be the central character, but they've gone with Azula, which is an interesting selection. And May probably works better if you're talking about like the character who maybe stands out the most in Smoke and Shadow. Whereas Azula is really only in the book, obviously, right at the very end. So interesting, but I suppose from maybe like a marketing point of view, in terms of direction, what they told the artist to do as the central character, Azula does make sense, because I think what people remember and might know about this book is that it's another Azula focus, and they know Azula is important and very popular, so that's the main thing to say there. So yeah, it's a 3-in-1, you know, at the cheaper price. That's the main thing to say about it. September 29th, 2021, so it's a week after the book 2 art book re-release, but still, this one now is 7 months between the Rift Omnibus and this one. This is probably the most like egregious example of like, that's a major delay, in that for what reason would you want to, in the middle of releasing your omnibuses, take such a major delay? Because people, from what I've seen in general, the opinion on the omnibus editions is that great, people love the value and they just wish they'd actually release them quicker. Why are you choosing to release them slower? My guess is that they're not going to switch to releasing them every 7 months. That would be crazy. But for whatever reason, at the end of last year, start of this year, there's been some sort of delay with things, and everything seems to be like, you know, 2-3 months behind schedule or whatever. Because other than that, the other two books have been 4 months apart. It was the Promise Omnibus started things off in June, and then it was like what, October for the Search Omnibus, February then for the Rift, coming up in a few weeks, and now this is all the way into September. Whereas I was pretty much predicting that September would almost be when the North and South Omnibus would be. So unless they're going to sort of surprise us maybe next month and reveal that the North and South Omnibus is out like end of the year, this also puts it in a situation where, you know, to give enough time for the North and South one, that will probably go into next year, 2022, for North and South. Because there's like, if they leave usually at least 4 months between these, they'll have to switch something to make it happen this year. And it's the same for this. Like, if we were expecting the book 3 art book to also come out this year, we need this book to come out way before September. So I think this pushes a few things that we did expect this year into next year, which is not particularly good. Now, I suppose the final thing to talk about here is, what does this mean for the Korra comic? So Korra comic number 3, whatever they're going to do with it. We pretty much know it's a thing, it's going to happen, they just have not announced it yet. Does this mean that it's going to be announced for coming out after September? I don't think so. Because I do think you have to treat the books that are these reprint books, like the art book re-releases and the omnibus editions, separately to the new books. The new books typically get announced when that, like, they're going to be ready for that time, whereas with these books they announce them sort of way ahead of time into the future, because they can, I suppose, plan them a little bit better, because the work is basically done. They can, you know, make sure that happens, versus a book where the art isn't done yet. They have to be more sort of like strict with, you know, this is the scheduling for it. So Suki was announced last month for June, meaning that if they were to announce a new comic, you know, they could theoretically this month still announce books, I suppose, for July, or if we wait to next month, you know, for August. So, you know, it could still be out like earlier in September or August or July. They just haven't, you know, gotten around to that yet. But again, it's really tricky to keep track of what they're doing, because the release dates, based on like everything else, don't really make a lot of sense. And, you know, excited for these 2 books, in that I'm pretty much in on all of the deluxe editions at this point. And the omnibus editions I do really like, and this is another great cover. But, you know, obviously not the most exciting news, because there's not really any new content here. And especially until we see the new cover here, there's also not a ton to say. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. Finally getting the announcement of the Book 2 Spirits art book re-release and the Smoke and Shadow Omnibus. What are your thoughts on these? And I suppose more specifically, what are your thoughts on the release dates and what this means? What has happened here? In that, wow, we're already talking about books like right at the end of the year. In that, in a way, when it comes to these reprint books, this year, like, are we actually going to see any more of these type of books announced to come out this year? I'd be very skeptical of it at this point, unless they're really accelerating things for the end of the year. But again, it leaves a lot of gaps, like the gaps between the books that are out in February and the Suki book, and then the gap between the Suki book and these books. You know, what's going on? I think the only book that breaks that is this coming out in March. So, you know, don't know what's going on. So let me know your thoughts on all that stuff in the comments below. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.